Welcome to I Can Science That, where we do honest investigation of everyday science. I've been fascinated by the flat Earth topic for years now, and the latest hotness in that topic is this debate between Dave Farina and Austin Witsit, which appeared on TheQuartering. The link to the original full-length debate will be down in the doobly-doo. I don't like to call what I do debunking, so I'm going to call this a response video. As a response video, I invite either participant to continue with an ongoing discussion if you should happen to see this. My main point in these responses is going to be that Professor Dave does not seem to have done the same level of research and preparation that he has done in other topics that he has debated. It seems likely that Farina simply doesn't take this topic seriously and as such didn't feel that it deserved much preparation. This is understandable, but it left me feeling disappointed that Farina failed to point out some of Witsit's most egregious errors, when those errors are actually well known already within the debunking community. And I felt that had Farina done a little bit more research and preparation, he would have known to call these out, and the failure to call out these very obvious mistakes left the door open for Witsit to sound like he knew what he was talking about and was doing a good job of presenting his case. So for Professor Dave, that is my primary feedback and what's going to become the focus of these videos. I felt that you were very dismissive of the topic and you could have done much better. Although I must agree with you that you will not be changing anyone's mind with this debate, no matter what you present. The original debate is 2 hours long, and a lot of people have already covered it. If I can somehow find the time, I intend to make a series of these short videos, each one pointing out one instance where I felt that Professor Dave had the opportunity to point out an egregious error on the part of Austin Witsit and simply left that opportunity on the sidelines. In this first video, let's talk about the long distance photos that Witsit presented, and in particular, we'll highlight the one that Witsit wanted to use for a discussion, but the discussion didn't really go anywhere.
Here we have a target hidden height of 16,000 feet, and the top of the tallest mountain is 12,000 feet, which means that the mountain should have been thousands of feet below.
At this point, Witsit brings up the Earth Curve calculator, and it's shared on screen. And this is the first point where I felt that Professor Dave had the opportunity to mention something that is typically mentioned every single time this Earth Curve calculator is used in the discussion of flat Earth. And it says right on the screen that the Earth Curve calculator that Austin chooses to use makes the assumption that light travels in straight lines. The reason that's on there is because this calculator does not include atmospheric refraction. And Austin knows that. In fact, maybe Professor Dave chose not to mention that because he knew that Austin wanted to discuss it. It's odd, but here, let's go back and hear Austin sort of baiting this discussion for some reason.
So we should not see the entire mountain. This is a major problem because you're going to have a problem trying to invoke refraction here, and hopefully you do.
Using Walter Bisselin's Earth Curve calculator, we can enter the observer height and the target distance and the mountain's size. For comparison, let's start with that zero refraction. This is now refraction completely disabled, and we will see the prediction is that the mountain will not be visible at all. But what happens if we simply apply standard refraction? If we simply apply the amount of refraction expected on a typical day in the atmosphere, we'll find that the mountain is suddenly visible. We have 132 feet shown here as visible with standard refraction. 132 feet is not a lot, and it seems fairly certain that we're seeing more than 132 feet of that mountain. But the point that I'm making here is that Witsit seems to have very deliberately chosen to disregard that feature, and Dave let him slide on that. Now, why would Witsit want to do something like that? Clearly to make his case better, stronger. If the mountain is supposed to be completely hidden, that's a different story than the mountain is supposed to be barely visible. And which case do we have here? If we're being honest and we're looking at this photo, is the mountain barely visible? It looks like more than 132 feet, but barely visible is a pretty good description of what I'm seeing here. This leaves me curious though. Why would Witsit bring up this refraction? I have a theory about that, and I'm going to save that for the next video if I find time to make another video. For this video, I'd like to just focus on what you can uncover with just a minimal amount of research into this topic. First, I'd like to point you to this website, link in the doobly-doo, where the original photo can be found, as well as some information about where it was taken. Refractive favorable circumstances, allowed to view some other peaks. And right here, let me point to the labeled image, which shows the world record peak, at least at that time, Pic Gaspard. Right there is this little teeny little bump on the horizon right there. And there are several other peaks that are also labeled conveniently in this photograph. Taking a closer look at this image, we'll see two other mountains labeled, one on either side of Pic Gaspard, which are somewhat closer at 391 kilometers and 392 kilometers. And these two mountains present an interesting opportunity for us to investigate the question of exactly how much of Pic Gaspard is visible and whether that better matches the globe Earth or the flat Earth predictions. With the most cursory search of the Pic Gaspard talking point that Austin is using, Professor Dave could have been prepared with something like FlatEarth.ws, which illustrates the fact that this photo not only is consistent with a mild amount of refraction on a globe Earth, but is in fact completely inconsistent with anything that could be possible on a flat Earth. Now, this is an opportunity to have taken control of the discussion, and all it really required was to do just 5 minutes of Google searching. If we scroll down just a little bit, we'll see the explanation. Once again, using Walter Bislin's Earth Curve Calculator, we'll find simulations of what these two mountains should have looked like on the globe. And we'll see that only a very tiny amount of Pic Gaspard is peaking just barely over the horizon. But the mountain to its left, Grand Ferrand, is significantly taller, still hiding behind the horizon somewhat, but rising up higher in the image than Pic Gaspard itself. Now, that's somewhat curious when you note that Grand Ferrand is over 1,000 meters shorter than Pic Gaspard. So if it is 1,000 meters shorter, then it's curious that it should be so much taller. Now, certainly it is closer, and we know the perspective creates that effect. But is it enough to simply say perspective and be done with it? Or perhaps we should do the actual calculations and see what does the globe model predict and what does the flat model predict. And for Mr. Witsit and anyone who agrees with him or felt that he did a good job with that presentation, I would like to ask you, if we're doing an honest investigation, shouldn't we at least compare the globe prediction and the flat prediction as well? I've agreed that this photo does not exactly match the globe prediction. Is that all we need to do? Or should we then also put the same level of scrutiny on the flat Earth prediction? Let's do that. Walter Bislin's calculator gives us that opportunity. And this is what the flat prediction says, that a significant amount of the Pic Gaspard should be above the horizon. But in fact, the one to its left, which was called Grand Ferrand should be below eye level. It should be below the horizon completely. We can see that very clearly right here. We are looking at Grand Ferrand, which is 2,758 meters tall from an observer's height of 2,826 meters. The observer is above the peak of that mountain. And yet, somehow, the observer is able to see that mountain above the horizon. And not only is it above the horizon, but it's above a taller mountain that is on the right, Pic Gaspard. So if we are standing above Grand Ferrand, looking down at it, how is it possible that we have to look down even further to see the taller mountain, Pic Gaspard? And lastly, let me just point out that all of this has been mentioned before, long before this debate took place. So right up there, I'm going to link you to Dave McKeegan's excellent video that does a similar analysis to what I just ran you through. This is material that has been available long before this debate took place. It was available for Dave Farina to have referenced if he had done a little bit more research into this topic. And certainly, I would think that someone like Austin Witsit, who has done this research, absolutely has seen this video and this analysis before. And that brings me back to the same thing that I keep coming back to. Let's have comments now from anyone who considers themselves a flat earther or a level earther or whatever you want to call yourselves. If you think that the mainstream narrative about the globe is wrong, how do you feel about Witsit and what he has presented and whether he's done a good job of representing honesty and representing your perspective on things? Do you think Austin has never seen this material that I've just presented? Or do you think maybe that a deeper discussion would have followed if Dave Farina had brought this up, and then maybe Austin could have answered all these questions that we're left with right now? Let's keep those comments civil, no insults please, and it'd be great if we could stay on topic. Once more, the topic is this photo as presented by Austin Witsit during the debate. Does it honestly show flat earth evidence? Or as I have presented here, does it indicate an extreme bias in the level of scrutiny that Witsit was willing to put forward? My own analysis suggests that Witsit deliberately ignored refraction in the hopes of helping his case, and then failed to compare this with any predictions whatsoever based on a flat earth. Coming down to the fact that he clearly must be aware of this analysis that's been done years ago and continues to present this image as if that analysis has never taken place. And that seems like an extreme level of bias from my perspective. What do you think?